Listen, it's been in the mail, but it's time for an Everton conversation. Welcome back to Laurence McKenna channel. It's good to have you guys. There has been a lot of chat about Everton over the last few years, but in the last few weeks, things have begun to get a little bit more serious. And A, the penny has dropped, but B, there are a few things that have been in the mail now for a little while with Everton that seem to be sort of playing out. And I'm trying to work out how much of it is even the responsibility of the people at the club now, or the responsibility of the playing staff, should we say, at the club now, and the manager, or whether this has literally been a long time coming and the problematic situation they find themselves in is really one of poor ownership and poor planning, but also just poor squad meshing in the first place. Like, let's weigh these things up, right? First of all, drew against Leicester. It's not great. Doesn't really pull Everton up. Doesn't really pull Leicester down. If anything, actually, Everton really needed a win here. They're going to have seen that as points dropped. What is quite damning, actually, is this was the highest XG of the whole season for any team. 6.77, I think it ended in the game. That's the highest in combo between any teams this season. Now, that might sound good, and you might say, hey, you know what? Everton's attack might be fantastic. And to an extent, there are good elements of Everton's attack. But at the same time, there are also elements of both sides that are just letting a lot of chances go to waste, but at the same time, also let a lot of chances what do you want to say, like get taken through, be accepted into the opposition half, all those kind of things. Everton and Leicester barely stopped what they needed to this evening. And as exciting as that is, as kind of, I guess, punch for punch, knock for knock, like, you know, you jab, I'll jab, like the ups and downs of that going back and forward, the moments of brilliant, almost a goal, not quite a goal, the moments of great anticipation, all these kind of things. Those really, is that quality? Like, that's, I guess, what the question I was asking was. And have we come to expect that from someone like Sean Dyche? Now, Sean Dyche, by the way, is not beyond criticism at this point. I think Sean Dyche has he's had to make some difficult decisions, mainly because I think what Sean Dyche is wrestling with is club politics. One side, we've got, you know, lots of players who probably don't want to be there, probably been mismanaged serially in the past, not only by the owners, but also by people at the club as well. A couple of people who've sort of been frozen out, a couple of people who've been long-term injured or not quite in the team. If they had Mina in this squad, if they had, I mean, even if you were to put, I feel like Onana's a difficult one. If you were to have, say, a Gordon staying at the team, if you were to have multiple different players that Everton had on the bench this evening that they could have brought on, that they didn't. In the end, I think they ended up using one sub, which shows there is a small, I think, trusted group here at Everton right now. And as much as we'd love to say this is a well-bonded, well-put-together team, Everton have spent a huge amount of money, a lot of which has been wasted because they haven't then put the money in, say, bonding the side. They haven't put the effort into bringing them together, coaching them into being a, should we say, cohesive unit. And beyond that, the football that they play very often is so up and down, is so, can we judge it tonight? Is it actually going to be good or is it going to be bad? Are we going to see a team that turns up or are we going to see a team that disappoints us? And you know what? Credit to Everton fans. I think Everton have been, what's the phrase? Not fantastic this season, but the fans are always very consistent. Even when there was a real possibility, and it was a very distinct possibility, that Everton go down last year, the fans are still there. The fans are still offering whatever support it is that they need to be offering. And I think around that, there are going to be a lot of Everton fans that are left bitterly disappointed when they do go down, because in this run-in, they've got Brighton, Man City, I think Wolves, and then I don't even know what that was. Wolves and then Bournemouth on the last day of the season. And as good or as bad as that run is, I still think it sees them go down. There are too many teams around them with great runs. There are too many teams around them who have put even light between them. And frankly, they need to win these games, that, like the ones against Leicester, suck Leicester back into a worrying battle. Like, you're not going to get a win against Man City. I mean, maybe Sean Dyche is going to do something famous here. Maybe this is going to be Sean Dyche's possible greatest moment ever in the Premier League of keeping Everton in the league. But the likelihood feels very low. And they feel damned in a way that even possibly Southampton feel right now. Now, Everton, too big to go down. Everton, I think that the real problem with Everton over the last few years, and we can get into this now, has been that Everton were bought. They were a good acquisition when bought. Cool city, engaged fan base, a fan base that's expandable, a fan base that's got a good competition with another big side. So you can kind of play on that a little bit in the same way of City have played on their Man United connections, in the way that, you know, Chelsea are the team that everyone's facing in London, all these kind of things. There's loads of marketable assets there that I think someone who's an owner could have capitalized on more, could have made more of, and possibly has mismanaged serially. They've got the new stadium allegedly coming. The location is incredible, even if the transport to it will need some reform, even if some of those traffic days are going to be awful around Liverpool on those days. But the point is still, there was plenty, and I mean plenty, to be positive about at Everton. They invested a lot of money. They brought a lot of people in there. Spending at times was good. There have been some good players in there. You know, you've got someone like an Iwobi. They've not got them. They've not got Mina at the back. Connor Cody wasn't on the field this evening. There are some seemingly decent on paper investments in there, but they've never meshed a team together. They've never meshed a squad together. Onana is a quality player, a player that can probably go somewhere else in the Premier League and do a really good job. I wouldn't have minded him at Liverpool at this point. But again, we're not seeing that. We're not seeing the overall bigger picture here at Everton coming together. And it's the owners that owe the fans a huge apology, frankly. Club's been serially mismanaged over years now. On top of that, I think when it comes down to it, I think they never quite got that escape velocity to get out of this area in the Premier League, sort of the purgatory between being a solid Premier League team and a kind of make at least competing for Champions League, if not regularly competing for it. The last time they realistically did that was David Moyes. The last time and even then with David Moyes, it felt like a bit more like a kind of a puncher's chance rather than anything else. There were other teams that in the long term were going to be doing a lot more financial investment. We're going to have a lot better infrastructure, all these kind of things, right? So, and even then, that's not really this modern ownership coming into fruition there. So is it even something we can criticize or, you know? Anyway, put them in a great area where they were to be bought, right? They were then bought. They just haven't capitalized. Other teams have moved ahead of them. Other teams have probably invested equal, if not less than Everton at this point, just invested better. They've invested in more efficient, more cost-effective ways. And, you know, frankly, even Liverpool's spend is comparable to Everton. Now, Liverpool's squad maybe started at a slightly higher level, but if you look at what Klopp had when he came in at Liverpool, it wasn't like such leagues ahead. Maybe the facilities, maybe some of the coaching staff, maybe the fact they were a more established entity made them something more, I guess, something easier to build with. But it's not as if Everton hadn't been putting in some decent performances more recently or more, you know, putting together that kind of, we can go fourth, we can go fifth, we can kind of challenge for top four sort of thing. So there's that too. And then on top of that, with this new ownership, you would have thought that players would have been attracted to coming. You would have thought that there would have been a lot of people who go, hey, I'm going to go, not anywhere, but if can I say, yeah, possibly if I'm going to go to the Premier League, Everton are one of those names. Now you've got Newcastle ahead of them. Now you've got, definitely any London club ahead of them. Even the size they've drawn with this season, the likes of your Crystal Palaces, Chelsea isn't really a comparable club, but, you know, there's been a couple of frustrating draws in there where in previous seasons, Everton were a formidable and feared force. Now you're disappointed if you drop points to Everton. Now the managed or mismanaged decline of this side has made them an entity not to be feared. And they have always, and I mean always, been a structure and a fixture at the top of the Premier League pyramid. They've been one of the constants throughout this period. They've not been relegated from the top tier. They've always been there. There's always been a Merseyside derby pretty much every season for as long as at least this generation and the previous generation can remember. And within that as well, that is something the Premier League markets itself on. That's something that Liverpool as a football club look forward to every season. Now, Everton fans don't need patronising and sort of like, oh yeah, we'll miss you in the Premier League. But this serial mismanagement, the mismanagement this evening, which I think, again, I'm not 100% on sure. I think Sean Dyche has got his trusted few, and I think it is a trusted few rather than a maximum. But there are times where I think that's to the detriment of the side. And, you know, he may take Everton down, and he may well do that. It's not necessarily his responsibility. He got a bit of a new manager bounce, but I think ultimately there is a bit of is Sean Dyche the guy here if they go down into the Championship to bring them back up? Possibly, maybe they did the same with Burnley, but when you look at what Burnley have now, when you look at the resources and the way they've been taken forward, the way they've been built on, there are a couple of managers who feel more like they're keeping teams warm for them to almost become this like buyable, make me more attractive kind of entity before someone like a company comes in or before someone else says, hey, we can make you into an asset. Everton have just been really poorly put together. And I think there is a point where the players begin to know it. There is a point where it's not attractive to be an island of misfit toys anymore. At one point, maybe it is. Maybe it's like, hey, we'll prove those guys wrong. When you stop proving them wrong, when you're languishing towards the bottom of the league, when you just, and I mean, get out of an exhausting battle like last season, and then you get into another battle this season, that is exhausting. That will be taking a mental toll on all of these players right now. The quality ones in Jordan Pickford, your Iwobis, even Dominic Calvert-Lewin's. Those guys will be thinking right now, I am exhausted from this. I could be somewhere else getting adulation, getting whatever it is. Now, I'm not saying that means they don't want to play well for Everton, but what I'm saying is there is an issue with the way the team has been put together in the long run, and therefore an issue with the way they are playing now. This has been in the mail, like I said at the start of the video. I think Everton fans have known it too. This is not news to them, but maybe it's news to the rest of the league who are sort of going, hey, Everton are always in the league. What is going on here? So I'd be interested to know what you guys think at this point. What is it that you think Everton need to do to turn things around? Is it even possible for them to turn things around? I think 9 points out of these last few games, possibly. I think, yeah, I mean, it possibly keeps them up. The problem being there are too many other teams who, if Everton get those 9 points, maybe that's got to be their final push here, is like, but they're not getting the points. They're not competing. Maybe they'll care more than a couple of these sides in the run-in, but not City. There's a guaranteed loss in that one. There's probably another loss in there which gives them 6 points, which means they may get relegated by as little as 1 point this season, or they may remain in the Premier League by as little as 0.3 of a point or something like that. Do you know what I mean? We're talking about, like, you know, the margins here of what Sean Dyche has added, because don't get me wrong, Sean Dyche has added points. They were like 0.88 before, and now they're like 1.08 to points per game, right? So they're getting better. But they're not getting better at a velocity which takes them so much better. And just to give you some context on that, I don't think that's Sean Dyche's fault. When Mauricio Pochettino was manager at Southampton and they were doing very well, their average was like 1.47 per game. And even then, when he went in at Spurs, in his first season at Spurs, a team competing relatively well, I think it was like 1.65 for Poch. So the margins, these small points add up over a season. Over 38 games, if you are averaging 1.6 points per game, you stay in the Premier League, because 38 times 1.6, you know, it's good. I'm not going to do the maths in my head right now. But it also, the margins become so much bigger when it's like 1.5 versus 1.6, because that adds up over the 38 games. It's not arbitrary. You play everyone in the league twice. And you know, here's the weird thing about it. I don't even think Everton have been all that unlucky with the fixtures. Like, there are a couple of teams where you go, ooh, you sort of played them at the right time, the wrong time. Maybe they're playing City at the wrong time, but playing Leicester at this time, perfect. There were 3 points there for the taking. So I'd be interested to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video. I hope Everton stay in the league. I love having them in the league. I'll be just gutted if they go down, and I really fear that they're going to. So I'll chat to you in a while. Much love. Bye.